This is a sorry tale about a group of people who bought land on Gippsland's 90-mile beach back in the 50s and 60s. They bought that land on the promise of a development that was going to become Victoria's Gold Coast. It was going to be a slice of paradise. In fact, they were sold a pup. Much of that land was unsuitable for development, was coastal dunes or flood prone, and for good sound environmental reasons should never be built on. Last year I received 67 complaints about this matter. They were on two main themes. Landowners complained that they were being charged rates and other charges by Wellington Shire Council for land that they couldn't build on, in some cases couldn't even access. And people were also complaining that the council was profiteering from its buyback schemes. And I felt it was in the public interest for these matters to be looked at to see whether the council was acting fairly and reasonably. Some of these complaints were in fact the result of confusion. In fact, there are two broad categories of land in the 90-mile beach area. There is land that cannot ever be developed under any circumstances because it's flood prone or in the coastal dunes. But there's also land that could be developed if smaller blocks are combined into a single larger block. We did examine very carefully the buyback schemes that have taken place in the last couple of decades, and there's no evidence that the actions of the council in those schemes was unreasonable. At the heart of many of these complaints is an issue we simply can't fix. The original landowners understandably feel cheated, but we have to reflect that their experience sadly reflects a time before planning controls protected our natural environment. And it's important to remember that the council and the government of today can't be held responsible for that original flawed transaction. So what is the fair outcome to a saga that has its roots in planning failures more than 50 years old? But that's not only fair to the landowners who've complained to me, it's also fair to all of the ratepayers of Wellington Shire Council and indeed to the Victorian public. What I've decided is that the council's decision to levy rates and charges on what is unusable land, while ultimately lawful, is in these unusual circumstances not fair. I have asked the council to stop levying rates and other charges on land that can't ever be developed, and to refund charges to those people who can provide evidence of payment. But I've also recommended that ultimately the land that can't be developed should be returned to public ownership for the benefit of all.